And hey, everybody, welcome everyone to IFB Exclusive. I'm your host, New York Pete, and I hope you're ready for the inside track from a special guest today. So here live is none other than Waldo Rodriguez, who is an author and game designer. A little bit different, right? Usually we have, sci-fi authors and the like. And he's got a unique story, and I'm glad he took the time out to come on. And I'm going to bring him right up, and here he is. Waldo, thank you for coming on the exclusive. And you have a bunch of books that you've written, and I want to know, tell me about yourself, and then we're going to get into the books because they're very cool. And don't forget, you did mention that you are a fan. So tell us what makes you.
All right, so I'm Waldo Rodriguez, author of the Reclaimer series, and man, it's kind of been a wild ride as to how I got to be an author. So originally, I'm from Puerto Rico, and as a kid, I would play Super Nintendo games like Mega Man, Super Mario, and all that, and I was just like, I want to grow up and make those. So I did grow up, and I tried to go make those, and it was a lot harder than it looks.
Okay, yeah.
So I had to teach myself programming and all this other stuff, and eventually I got hired in an indie game company. In this indie game company, we had the absolutely galaxy brain idea to make our first game a massively multiplayer online real-time strategy game. So we took the two hardest games to make and blend them into one.
Wow.
And didn't go well. Crashed and burned, absolute fire. But I learned a lot. And it's also where I got my start in writing, because when I joined the team, I was just there as a community manager, and people were asking questions about the game. What are we going to do for gameplay? What's the story? I didn't know that because they hadn't told me either as the community manager.
Wow.
So I asked my boss, can I see the design documents? It was like 15 pages of not really anything to run on. So I was like, give me a week with this. I'll get you a proper design doc, because I've been studying this stuff. I've been wanting to do that. So started doing that. Then I was like, I love games like StarCraft and Command and Conquer. One of my favorite things were the factions. They have all this flavor to them, all this character, and we have none of that here. So let me slap together some stories about these factions and all that stuff. And a week passed, handed it to my boss. Apparently, I sniped the lead writer job from someone.
Wow.
Yeah,
Just like that.
yeah. He was super happy with it, made me the lead game designer on the project and the lead writer. So very, very busy year or two that I was working on that after that. But
Wow.
yeah,
Well, so that's pretty cool in and of itself. I need to steer you back into
all right.
your background. Are you a fantasy fan, a horror fan, sci-fi fan, or all of the above? And tell us a little bit about that.
I'm kind of all over the place, but mostly a sci-fi fantasy fan. I love
Okay.
that mesh between here's all your cool tech gadgets, but here's a wizard too. So
Excellent.
in the sci-fi realm, which is what I'm leaning towards the most, especially because I see fantasy everywhere, but I don't see sci-fi getting it nearly as much love as I think it should. Stuff like well, my all-time favorite stuff is Mobile Suit Gundam. Pretty
Okay.
much anything in that entire universe, specifically 8th MS Team, Iron Blooded Orphans recently was really freaking good. I don't care what anyone says. I love that. And something people might be more familiar with in the old school is like Robotech and Macross.
Sure,
When
of
I was a
course.
kid, Toonami came onto the scene, Robotech popped up, and I was like, excuse me, what is this? And then on the flip side, the fantasy end of things, I grew up loving stuff like Lord of the Rings. And because I loved anime from, you know, Gundam and all that, and Toonami introducing me to Dragon Ball, uh, I eventually discovered Berserk
Okay.
and that whole trip. So yeah, a grim dark fantasy. Give it to me.
Excellent. Well, you know what? Since you're a fan, and there's a huge fandom out there for all of that you said. We're gonna just do a quick toast, and here at part of IFB, we respect, we love the fans. So fans fuel the fleet. So here's to all of you guys that represent all the fandoms out there. So here's to you guys, and thanks for tuning in. Excellent. So that then, you know what? Before I give it back to you, Waldo, George G is in the house, Lola's in the house, Chuck is in the house, John, everybody else that watches this later on. A lot of times, Waldo, these things catch fire. Sometimes, we'll have like over 30,000 views later. So thank you everybody for watching this. I'm here with Waldo Rodriguez, who is a author gamer, and he's going to get into a little bit of that whole why he wrote the stories and what they are. And as a matter of fact, I am going to bring that up right now. And here's a lot the Crucible, right? This is
Yeah.
the beginning. I have book one is the bigger one, and then it goes on. And these are only the five of the six. I have the sixth one after, but then tell us all about this. Here it is. This
So,
is this is incredible. Six, not only six, there's more, but at least in this series, tell us about it, Waldo.
so I actually got two of the books here with me, and
Ooh, hold on, I
they
gotta
are
put that up.
they are thick books. So if you're a fan of big books and you cannot lie, like me, you're gonna enjoy these. These are like
Awesome.
700-ish pages each.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
I
cool.
actually ran into a problem with my last book and the one that's currently in editing. They're too big for Amazon's print, so we kind of have to finagle some things with the formatting to make them fit. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, I got kind of went a little overboard.
Hey,
So
well, so my impression has always been, Waldo, that if you write that much, right, if there's content, you've done a lot of world building. So tell us about, this series that we have up now, right? The Reclaimer, and tell us, what is this all about, and how do you create that world that they live in?
So this series kind of spun out from a couple of ideas. First, my love was sci-fi and fantasy. Like I wanted to have a world that blended the two of them together, but that also lead heavier into the sci-fi side of things. But then I also had a really interesting question that popped up from a friend of mine that was, what if like an apocalypse happened and everyone forgot about the old world. So you had all these myths and legends about the old world, like, oh, the ancient ones used to fly on great birds and da 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 da, and the great birds were actually just like an airliner that they're currently sitting
Oh,
in the guts of, using as a hut, but they don't know it's one of these great birds that they're talking about. So I was like, yes, let me do something with that. But then as I started writing the series, which would be book 5, that's where I was supposed to start. But then I did a flashback scene that got out of hand, and we got 4 books instead for the prequel.
wow.
Yeah.
So
So I
how does
started,
that? I mean, so you started like somewhere other than right from square one, and you just kind of went backwards and
yeah,
forwards. And how do you keep track of something like that?
Universe Bible. If you're an aspiring author or world builder of any kind, get you some spreadsheets and start categorizing everything you're putting in there. Who the big factions are, what their reasons for doing the thing that they're doing are, what they love, what they hate. Characters do the same, that places, locations, technologies, whatever you can think of, put it in a universe Bible, because otherwise you'll be like me. After I rewrote the initial first 4 books were initially 1 book that was way too big, and then I had to break it up into 4 books. And
Wow.
then I had no idea what anything was because I hadn't been keeping a universe Bible. I
Oh,
kept the character list because I'm terrible at people's names. So I was like, yeah, I know that guy. He does the thing, but I don't know his name until I find it again in the book. So I said, Universe Bible, keep notes of everything you do. It will save you so much time and trouble. You have no idea.
okay. That's a great pro tip, everybody. Pro tip. That's what it's about here on IFB Exclusive. So, the other, speaking of exclusives, Waldo, you don't, you haven't been too far into the world of the conventions or the streamings, or I know you mentioned you've done a podcast before, podcast interview,
Yeah.
but the streaming live is something that you're new to, so that's another great exclusive coming to us, and sharing your time, and we appreciate that. Award-winning sci-fi author Bert Oliver Boehmer is with us. Thank you
Hey.
for checking in, Bert. We appreciate your support. So I don't know, like, so where do you go from that? Like, how long did it take you to craft out, this? And when I put up here, live with us, and we're looking at Reclaimer, this is the one that you started writing first,
Yeah.
yes? Okay, tell me
The
more.
Crucible is the first one I published. So
Oh, cool. Okay.
what had happened was, that game studio I was talking about.
Yep.
So after that project went under, everyone was telling me, "Hey, you're really good at this writing thing. You should do something." I was like, "Yeah, I don't know. Zero confidence in my own ability." But they kept nagging me about it. Like, okay, okay, I'll keep it as a hobby or see if I can do something with it. So I started working on building the world. I would research things, spend unhealthy amounts of time on Wikipedia and YouTube researching all sorts of different topics and survival craft things. And I'm sure I'm like 10 different watch lists from some of the topics I've researched. But if you're an author and you're not on a watch list, you're doing something wrong.
Okay.
So eventually I had like something about as thick as this as my first rough manuscript. The first 4 books pretty much in one. It was way too rushed, but I felt confident enough to show it to friends and family. Problem was, friends and family will tell you, it's great. I love it. They don't want to shoot you down. Well, depends on your family and your friends. I have some special characters that are like, no mercy. But for the most part, they didn't tell me what was wrong, so I had to go get an editor. So I went to a professional editor and they toured a new one. I was basically paying them to give me English classes because apparently college wasn't good enough. I had to learn a bunch of grammar and spelling things that I did not know. So that was fun. And well, right up until I was pretty excited to be working with them right up until they told me, "Hey, you want a sensitivity reader for this?" And they're like, "I don't want to do a sensitivity reader," specifically because there was a scene which I was making a reference to Major Payne, where he's telling the kids like, "Down, tub it, up, tub it," that kind of thing. They're like, "Oh, they're being too mean." It's like the dude is trained to be like surviving in the world after it ends. Like his buddies are gonna need him to be physically capable, or they're all going to die. Best case scenario, he only dies if he's tubby still by the time this happens. So had to cut her out because she was very insistent on that. But
Wow.
yeah,
This is Listen, Waldo. We've been IFB has been is closing on 4 years, 4 seasons, and we've interviewed a lot of authors, and you're the first that's actually giving us, the details that you're sharing with us are really insightful, right? The idea that, first of all, your friends are probably going to kid glove you, and that's not totally helpful. It's good for morale in the beginning, but to not tell you what's really going on and giving you those pointers that you need to hear. And then at some point you got to get the editor, and then you may have to swallow your pride, right? Those of us that went to university, and hey, something's grammar here or there, like you said. And then on top of that, the one of your editors telling you, hey, there might be a scene that may not be in the best interest of publishing, and being a little more sensitive to. That's key to actually maybe being a little more successful or not in the world that you're in, and especially I would say in the beginning, right? Now that
Yeah,
you've done, like, I think 9 books, right?
under my
That
name.
might be a little different, but right, it's so, yeah, though it is so cool. Now that, let me bring back up your work here. So I have up here, in the reclaimer, is the big picture here is for the first one, and
Yeah.
then you can see it goes to Planet Fall is the fifth. But I'm going to also bring up, then here is, Heart of Iron, and
Yep.
this is the sixth, and I believe that is this the newest one that just came out?
Yep. And if everything goes to schedule, it'll be out on December in audio.
Oh, see, that's another major question we always ask is, whether or not it's going to be audio. Is there more in this series, or is this kind of like, what is it? Does it end here, or does it go on?
So when I started out about building this series, once that flashback scene got way out of hand and became 4 books, I broke the series up into a kind of a seasonal plan. So I got season 1, season 2, season 3. So season 1 being the Crucible. How did this guy go from zero to hero? Season 2 being exploring the world after the apocalypse and delivering on the first line blurb, Earth from the ashes of a dying world, the god will rise. I'm delivering on that in season 2, and season 3 will be like, now that he's got god tier powers, what he's gonna do. So each season is 4 books, so the plan is 12 books total,
Oh,
unless
cool.
I blow one of these books way too out of proportion and I have to cut it in half because editing is expensive. And I like having print books, so I gotta make them fit to Amazon's rules.
See, there's another pro tip, but that is very, very cool. Quick question from, John One. What influences do you credit to your writing?
Oh boy, there's a lot of them.
Oh, give us a few. You don't have to give them all, but just give us a few.
So a big, big one that I absolutely love, and you all can call me a nerd. We're all nerds here. Is Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. I always love
Okay.
that story of someone who sticks through a whole bunch of adversity, no matter how many times they get beat down, and it looks like they have zero hope of getting back up. They still get back up and they're stronger than ever. That's a massive one. And another, we like the Gundam. Well, they have multiple universes in Gundam, but like the whole mecha anime and stuff,
Mhm.
because here you can see it clearly in the background. There's a big giant robot back there. And I love those things. I have one show up in just about every book, even if it's just like set dressing, it's there somewhere.
Cool. Very cool. All right. So, that makes you a fan, and we love fans. And we talked a little bit before we went on live, and it shows, right? When someone brings that love of the fandom into their work, it changes things for the good. Like, we can tell, now the other thing is that you're not a stranger to writing, and you've done some, what some refer to as, silent or ghost writing, and
Yeah.
you're willing to tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah. So when I initially launched the series, I had zero idea what I was doing, but another author who does urban fantasy, I don't know why, but I'm guessing they read outside their, well, I know now, but at the time I didn't know. but they read outside their genre to see, oh, what are the tropes that they're using that I can maybe bring into my own writing or neat story ideas. So he saw my stuff and he was like, hey, this is really good. And you could use some help with the marketing and maybe refine some things in the writing. So he brought me in as like a mentee. So he was like basically became my mentor. But in order to do so without wasting my time or theirs, they took me on as ghostwriting. So I ghost wrote Apocalypse Online for them, and that was under the name Connor Malachi. Then they took me through that whole process, introduced me to the lit RPG genre, which I honestly didn't know existed in the first place. And when I was doing my story, I thought the whole idea of bringing stat ratings and all that for a book would be a neat idea because I'm a gamer. I like that thing. But I didn't think people would like it because I was trying to break into the military sci-fi genre,
Mhm.
which I didn't know was a very hard genre to break into, and they would prefer that if you had some sort of service background. So that was one of my big trip ups. Uh,
Interesting.
so they taught me a bunch of stuff. I would write for them every week. I would write X amount of chapters, and then they would tell me to stop because I wrote really fast. Let us read through it so we can bully you into shape.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
and
Interesting.
from there they found out they didn't actually have that much work to do on the writing front. It was the marketing front that I was a problem child with. So they helped me a lot with that front, and eventually went from writing Apocalypse Online to did a co-author with my name on it for New Realm Online is the other series, and now we're doing another series called Obelisk System Integration under the pen name of Connor Malachi, which is 4 books deep right now, and I'm in the middle of writing book 5 for it.
Wow.
Now, fair warning, the main character in Obelisk has zero filter. That was the point of the story, so be
Okay.
prepared for lots of sentence enhancers and antics that might not be family friendly, or they might border on it.
Okay. Well, you know what? It seems like it's maybe a PG-13 or better audience, target audience,
At
but
least.
at least, well, and then you have, right, you have this
Yes.
line. So what goes on? This seems like it's more on that, fantasy side.
Yeah.
Tell us about this?
So this is actually a lit RPG story in the whole vein of, hey, we're gonna go into this virtual reality world, and in that sense, that's the sci-fi element. That's about as sci-fi as I get, because try as I might, because I kept talking with Robin Weidman there and be like, but what if they figured out how to make guns in this? And he's like, no, I don't want guns. I don't want any of that fancy stuff. Like, but what if? Yes, like, no, it's a VR MMO. The devs hard coded it so that you couldn't do that. It's like, fine, I'll keep my freedom dispensers to myself. So, yeah, this was part of actually introducing me into the lit RPG genre and helping me learn the tropes about it.
Okay.
Because up until I wrote Apocalypse Online, I had no idea what I was doing with lit RPG. I didn't know it existed. I read some books and it was very hit or miss. Some of them were just like, you're interrupting the cool story and the cool action to bring me this literal, like, multiple pages worth of a wall of text for stats and ability scores and all that. It's like, that's cool and all, but I want to get back to the bashing the ogre in the face and saving the family from the ogre. So with Apocalypse Online and New Realm Online, I was able to take everything that I loved about the lit RPG stuff, redo it so that it wasn't so much interruption in there. I
Okay.
guess the fans would call that creamy versus crunchy. Crunchy being the hard numbers and all that. And
Mhm.
I just like the creamier side of things where I can get back to the story and the action as soon as possible.
And speaking of action, so what is this one? So this is
This
Raven
is a
Angels
short story.
Fall First, short
Yeah.
story. And is it a new series or does this play into any of the ones that we just showed?
So this one is specifically tied to the Crucible. So when you
Hold
start
on,
out
hold on.
in
We're gonna put that back up. Put that back up.
yeah, this
Okay.
is the author like preview copy, so you can make sure that everything's fine on the print version. So it's got that ugly not for resale bar across it, but yeah. So what happened with Raven was at the beginning, I want to say two, one. Oh wait, no, I made that into one really big chapter, so it would be around chapter one. Yeah, in chapter one of the book, when they're evacuating the city, they see a squad of tactical armor. So that's like my universe's mecha. Their Gundams and all that. You see a squad of them just waltzing through the city, and everyone's like cheering, like, "Oh yay, the army's here! They're gonna protect us!" And then Gabriel, the main character, is just like, "Why do we need that kind of hardware here? If there's no danger other than we need to leave the city before the storm hits."
Oh,
And Raven Angels Fall First is that tactical armor squad's point of view as to what happens
wow.
in the evacuation while they're fighting and everyone else is panicking trying to get out. Now, eventually, I plan to come back to this and make its own series out of it. But I have so many series in this universe I want to write that I don't know where to start.
Well, speaking of future works, let's get into a little bit of maybe doing conventions, what the next project would be. I also want to know if you were to have the power to create either a comic book series, a graphic novel. Would you do that, or would you want to do a movie instead, or maybe a limited series on, say, like, I don't know, Apple, Netflix, or Amazon, whatever? What would it be?
All of the above. So,
Excellent. Good
so
answer. Good answer.
for the conventions, because I'm fairly new to the author thing, I only knew about author conventions. So the only one I've been
Okay.
doing was 50 bucks to 20 bucks to 50K. And that was mostly I learned from other authors about the business side of things and the writing craft. And you get to network with other authors and be like, "Oh my God, I'm such a huge fan of you." And then there can be like, my English teacher always told me I'd amount to nothing. Now I get to rub that in her face. I was like, God. So from talking with them, especially this year, well, yeah, last year, I learned Dragon Con exists, and there's all these other and not author conventions, but like fan author book conventions. And in one of the Lit RPG Legion groups, I found out that they're getting together to do a Lit RPG convention. So next year, for sure, I'm going to be trying to go to Dragon Con and Lit RPG Legion's Lit RPG convention. So
Wow,
hopefully in person.
cool. Very cool. So that we can then get the autographed books.
Yeah,
So your
I'll have to
work
print out
now,
a whole brick of them.
you gotta, yeah. If you're going, you gotta bring and you gotta have stuff to autograph for fans. And your books are audio as well, right?
Yeah, the first
Okay.
season is complete on audio right now. The second season is in production, and I'm forgetting the dates off the top of my head, but October.
Of this year,
Yeah,
of
October of this year.
2024. Yeah.
Yes, Planet Fall
Okay,
comes out,
cool.
and December Heart of Iron comes out,
Oh, wow.
and Atreyan Dawn Book 7 in the series. That's in editing right now, so September-ish that should be done with the proofreading and the cover. So as soon as that's done, it's going straight to audio production,
Wow,
and
that's
hopefully early next year we can see it.
excellent. That's great. Let
Okay,
me
I gotta
ask you.
actually write.
Good, good. Thank you for sharing that here on IFB Exclusive. John has another follow-up question. It'll be our last question for our show. Angels Fall First. Will this be a series?
Eventually it will, because I just love the whole mech pilot idea, and I love more that military sci-fi thing. So I'm gonna be taking a story, probably follow the main characters. There is Michael Lugo. I'll probably take him from his beginning, how he became a pilot, what pushed him to that, and then get him to that point, and then follow him through some events that link up with a reclaimer, and then some events that affect the world after it ends, basically, where
Ooh,
Gabriel and friends see it in Planet Fall and everything like that.
very cool. Well, Waldo, where everything's available on Amazon, and you
Yep.
do have your own web page.
Yeah.
What else? What else is out there? What else? What else can you tell the fans that are watching this about your books and why they should get them?
So I'm on waldorodriguez.com is my website. I'm on Facebook under Waldo Rodriguez Writes. I have a Twitter that I am criminally inactive on. I should probably fix that. And then I also have a Ream page, so if you want to read the early chapters in a super rough stage with all the typos and glaring plot problems, you can go on Ream and look for Waldo Rodriguez there. And
Cool.
that's where you can find me. As for... Sorry, what was the rest of the question?
Well, you're out there. This is where we can find you. Your books are on Amazon. Hopefully, you're gonna do the circuit, the convention
Yeah.
circuit, and like where do you see yourself? This time next year, right? It's currently August of 2024. August of 2025 or better. Where do you see yourself?
Well, if you have a list of that circuit, I would greatly appreciate it because I need to start figuring out more places than just Dragon Con and RPG Con.
Oh, we
So,
have plenty. As a matter of fact, what we can do is John one, he can send you a list of some of the conventions that we've covered that we go to, and who knows? We would love to see you in action out in the field, and then have you come back and do like a follow up and see where, because I know you're going to progress. I know
oh
that
yeah,
you're going to put out more stuff, and it would be great to do a catch up, say, again, like 6 months or a year from now, to have you come back, probably like 6 months from now, and see what else is brewing. We would definitely love to have you come back. It was fun. We got a lot of
oh yeah.
Waldo. Thank you very, very much. And the best of luck.
Mhm.
This one's to you and the fans, right? Fans fuel the
To you as
fleet,
well. Mhm.
right? So let's keep the faith and do what you do best, and keep entertaining us. So Waldo, thank you.
I will. Thank you.
All right, guys. That pretty much wraps it up. We had a great guest, right? Waldo here. Waldo Rodriguez, who is a gamer and author, who's given us a bunch. Let me put this up real quick before we actually end. And I'm going to start from the beginning. All right. So the Reclaimer series, this is the 5 and last. And then here is the next series, and that is Angels Fall First, Raven, which is a whole other, that's a short story, and
Yeah.
it's hopefully going to move on to bigger and better things. So with that said,
If Deadman
thank
doesn't
you.
beat it to it first.
Oh, well, yeah, exactly. We'll see what happens. But thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. IFB Exclusive, another great show. Look for us on Thursdays, right, live, 8 to 9:30 or 10 Eastern time is where we usually, you'll find IFB Interfleet Broadcasting. So until then, guys, thank you very much for tuning in, and see you next time, Waldo. All the best.
You too, man. Thanks.